All right. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Game and Compute. On this podcast, we talk about careers, jobs, employment, school, finance related topics, the economy. Just want to update with what's been kind of going on with me lately. I'm not the only one. I've been talking to other people about such things as well. Now I'm recording this on a short work break, so this is gonna be probably an 8-minute or so episode. But basically, when it comes to future goals, if that's what I want to word it, I've been talking to close friends about this too, about career related things. And so a lot of us, a lot of the people I know, we were all kind of born in the 80s, elder millennials. And, a lot of us kind of had this mindset that we were taught of, go to school, get a degree. If that degree is not enough to get you the job with the pay rate that you want, then get a higher degree in the same field. And depending what field you want to work in forever, you're pretty much expected to stay in that field, likely in one career job or within the same field, because that's what you've been solely training yourself in pretty much for all of your academic and professional career, and then retire in your 60s in that career with everything built up from all the work you put in from school up until retiring. But I'm talking to friends and noticing with myself how things are changing. There's this fear with a lot of people with debt as well as age. So a lot of people in my age range, they're maybe in their early 40s or coming up on their 40s, and we're starting to think of like, hey, I have all these financial goals, and my goal, I have a goal to be a millionaire by the time I'm 50. Now, initially, I would have thought it would have been 40, but because my school path during the third year of the PhD, of the potential PhD portion, since that part didn't go well, and then I was working from that point until still working at this point in jobs that now I can confirm that without a license in the field of psychology, I'm not going to be able to get the pay bump that I would prefer. Because sometimes they do. Like, sometimes I have witnessed that they, like, certain people kind of hold it down at certain sites, and they do, provide you with that amount of, like, kind of a compensation that's like a livable wage, like a better, more comfortable livable wage. So when I got offered my current job, there was some discrepancy between what was said with the pay rate and what was provided. So I've been at this job 2 years now. Every late May is the anniversary of this job, this current job position, and then every August is the anniversary of my previous. Every August is the anniversary of my work with this actual, like, the whole company itself, not just this branch. And sorry, I'm in December. I'm sorry. My head is like literally not focused on this. I'm looking at the time. But basically, you know, I look at all that and I'm like, okay, well, I know now that this job is not going to pay what they were expecting. And I've crunched the numbers, done the math on the next job route, the path I'm aiming towards, looking at, what my expenses might be, how I want to move, how I want to spend my money. Like, I'm thinking that now. I'm like, if this is my pay rate and I'm making in this range, this is where my money's going to be allotted. I've got a little under 11 years to get to this goal. Now, I'm not nowhere near the goal. I'm not reaching the goal. I'm just not as far along as I would have been. Maybe that's wrong. That might be wrong, because I would have had more debt if I would have gotten the PhD. I would have had double the debt that I have now, because the professional school I was in didn't offer a lot of options. And so I would have had more debt, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't have been financially closer to where I need to be, because I would have had more debt now, and I wouldn't have been working in the field, building my retirement and investing this whole time for over 6 years. I would have been in school with the program where you can't get fellowships, you can't really TA, like you can't really work to make a chunk of money in that type of a program, because they have you doing so many things at once. Like, your hours, you don't really have enough hours in the day. So I wouldn't have been financially as ahead as I am even now, even though my pay rate's low, but I would have a bigger shovel coming out of it. But I was talking to a close friend and thinking about how, just reflecting on, like, I would have been finishing my postdoc last year, meaning this would have been my first year in a paid role, potentially at the pay rate that I was looking to get into, whereas I think by early next year in 2023, I'm actually going to be able to get to the same pay rate that I would have been getting to if I was the same pay rate that I would have been getting to if I was like, either way, it's gonna work out the same. If I was in the PhD program, I would have probably close to $500,000 in debt that I need to pay off, with probably close to a six-figure income, if not a six-figure income. I want to continue this conversation, actually. I'll expand this past 8 minutes, but for now I'm gonna just put it on pause because I've got a client at noon, so I'm about to make that call out and then finish this. All right, guys, so I'm back. I'm recording during waiting on hold, during work. So until this other department answers their phone line, I can record. So I hope the initial 8 minutes was okay. I'm having a lot of weird pain. Yesterday I had some weird back pain that didn't go away till maybe like about 8:30 p.m. I noticed it was gone. Maybe it helped when I was talking to one of my friends. Sometimes, you know how they say, like, back pain can be like a somatic kind of like, burden related thing. And then I noticed after I was talking to my friend about like work and career and stuff like that, I noticed I was feeling a lot better. But I'm not sure if that contributed or what. Like, I really just don't know. But yeah, I'm feeling a little just sore otherwise. And for another reason now, all of a sudden, it's I've had this weird intestinal kind of pain today. It's just kind of really weird. I'm not trying to do too much TMI here, but yeah, anyways, so yeah, on this topic of, millennials and careers, pretty much, I guess that's pretty much what this will be labeled. And, is this the end of an era, or the change of an era? I think we're starting to see a lot of people getting more into entrepreneurship, or at least having interest in such skills. Things I've noticed are people taking their jobs, what they were getting paid to do, changing that into, instead of a 9 to 5 or a 40-hour work week, making some form of a side hustle off of that job, or consulting about that job or how to get that job. One thing that I saw one of my friends do, which was ages ago, he started blogging, and this is a long time ago. He started blogging when he finished, I think when he got into and then finished nursing school and got his RN, was licensed and everything. He started talking about that process, and it almost, he shared it with a lot of people who shared it with incoming students, who were maybe friends, colleagues of theirs, and they all were sharing it with a lot of people. Now, this was back in 2011. Was it that long ago? Maybe. Could have been 2015-ish. It was a while back. I remember it was a time period when I would do websites for people. So I was, he asked me to make him a website, and I was creating a website for him so he could have his blog on an official website. And then, I did it through WordPress, and he wasn't really familiar with WordPress, so I don't think he ever used it. But I think he was using Blogger. It used to be called Blogspot. And I think this was even before Google took it over. I think Google is in charge of it now. I think this was before then. I don't know if Google was always in charge of it, but I think Google's now in charge of it. So anyways, so this was before that time period. So that's the kind of thing I mean when it's maybe consulting or some kind of side gig that, shows how much progress has been made, or how to, improve in a certain field. It was just overall an interesting thing that I saw back then that I never really thought about up until now, when I was okay, who have I known that's kind of dabbled in this kind of consulting that wasn't even really doing it for anything more than just a hobby. Now, I've talked about this before with a lot of jobs, how it really helps to know the inside and outside of your job to be able to kind of reverse engineer something. Now, I'm not saying become a competitor of your current hired, whoever you're hired for, I'm not saying become a competitor of them, but when you think of it, it's well, if somebody else could create this company, is that something you could do too? Or could you do a side version of it where you are able to do similar work, but the income is coming your way while you're actually working on this job too? So I've given the example kind of the type of work I do, but just that kind of method of reverse engineering. So how that looks is, think about it this way. how do you get paid, right? How do you get paid? Where does your paycheck come from? So when I think of it for my job, the way I get paid is if our company itself has the certain amount of contacts with clients connected to whatever insurance branch we are assigned to on our contract. It's not Kaiser, so let me just use Kaiser as an example because that's a popular one. So say if somebody has Kaiser and, they've identified that Kaiser, is wanting to cut expenses because of ER visits. So Kaiser goes out of their way to identify certain people with severity of conditions and ER visits that qualifies them for a certain type of service. I'm the person who has the job that's providing this type of clinical service because, to certain people who are under not Kaiser, but the insurance branch that I'm contracted with through my current company. So our caseloads have already been identified, and what we do is we contact them once we get the list, and we try to add new people to our caseload. Now, we need to contact each client. Say if we have let's just pick a nice round number of 20. Say if we have 20 clients on our caseload that we've enrolled, the goal is to have a care plan with them. They opt in, get them fully assessed and everything. And once they're fully enrolled and we kind of know what's on their care plan to work on, usually the specific things going on the care plan are going to be surrounding what it is that's bringing them into the ER so often, or any other things that, if I use Kaiser as an example, any other things that Kaiser is not, followed up with, that the, client themselves has had a hard time following up with, either because of a language barrier or a transportation barrier, or just the normal barrier that I notice is just, it's so hard and complex just to call through the phone lines in general, that just people just don't know how to call the insurance. So they use us because we are knowledgeable of how to contact these doctors' offices, how to contact the insurance, how to see what's approved, what's not approved, like what providers can they see, following up with referrals, all that kind of stuff. That's basically what I spend most of my day doing, is following up with people's care needs, either as they come up on the spot or just stuff that's already in the works, like stuff that's already on their care plan from enrollment. And so the way our company gets paid is the people in my job position have to reach out to their clients. So if I have a caseload of 20, like I was giving an example, in this example, if I have a caseload of 20 people, that means that I need to reach out to all 20 of those people during this month of October. And then our company gets paid, and my paycheck comes from that. Now, if I don't reach all 20 people, including, there is kind of like, okay, if I can't reach the actual client themselves, then I can call their providers or, some other contact person that they've approved us to be able to call. And that still counts as a form of monthly contact on that person's behalf for their case. So they know, the insurance knows that, our company is assigned to these members that are high utilizers of emergency rooms, which, cost Kaiser a lot of money. And so the goal is to get their care managed enough so that they don't have to keep using the ERs, and basically they use us as a more direct resource. So it's free for them. Their insurance covers, Kaiser covers the services that we provide. We check in with them at least once a month, or try to do so. And if I check in with all 20 of my clients that are on my caseload, or some form of a check-in that counts, then then the company's not going to complain to me. Now, in addition to that, there's certain types of contact that they count. So it's either phone contact, by phone session, because we're remote, so the majority of what we do is by phone. Some of it can be by email or by work phone texting, like work email, work phone texting, or in-person visits, or provider site visits, that kind of thing. And so that's how the payment kind of works. And so if everyone on our Kaiser team contacts all of their clients every month, or a type of contact that counts, then we all are able to not like, we still get paid an hourly rate, but our company will still get paid the amount it's supposed to get paid. And then every quarter, so every 3 months, if we have the caseload that Kaiser says, we want you to have this amount of people on your caseload, which our number is 35 minimum over an average of 3 months. So 35 on average, actually, not exactly 35 per month. So you could have like 34 one month, and then like 38 one month, and then like 36 one month, and that would still count as like an average of 35 or above, something like that. And so that's kind of how we address that issue. And we get a bonus check every time we've met that quota. Every 3 months that we meet the quota, we get a bonus check. And so that means that there's money set aside, already. And so we're incentivized to have a higher caseload. The least amount of people we can actually have on our caseload is not 20, it's actually 30. 35 is what's going to get the incentive bonus. And so this is kind of a bad example using my job, because we do have a lot of like sensitive data that we work with, sensitive information that we work with. I would not be able to do this type of job as I'm not licensed. I'm not licensed. I'm not what do you call it? I'm not licensed. I'm not able to kind of get access to healthcare information just out of the blue like that, and get paid by insurance because I don't have any specific like private contract, right? But say, for example, if the privacy and confidentiality things with healthcare wasn't an issue, I could easily just be finding clients. I could easily just, have some kind of coordination with an ER that's like, this person's had this many visits. And my goal would be to try to reduce those amount of visits, because clearly those people need help. And knowing the skills that I know and having the skills that I have, I would be able to help individual clients that I would find on my own. Now, again, just to repeat, I can't do that because, who would be paying me? Like the ER isn't going to give me private information of people's healthcare without any kind of contract, without any kind of insurance connection. Like there's a lot of things that this wouldn't work for me. Like this exact model would not work for me. But if I wanted to do something like peer life coaching or something where it's not even an official life coach, but like peer support type of self-help on my own, and set up like a Fiverr account for people who utilize the ERs. And if I knew a lot of different systems like Blue Shield and Kaiser and all these other different healthcare systems, and knowing how to do this specific job, I could potentially still gather health information from people through Fiverr, use their information if they need my help, and if they hired me privately to call, what we do for our own clients, like calling their transportation, scheduling rides, scheduling all their appointments, just, making a calendar for them to kind of reduce healthcare issues, symptoms that are coming up, and manage their diagnoses and all this kind of stuff. It's not, this model doesn't work with talking about healthcare, but if you were to take what I just mentioned and reverse engineer it to your own different types of places where you might work, if it's a job where you could get your own individual clients, that's kind of a model I've seen people doing lately, is sending information through that way. All right. And so other than the type of reverse engineering, entrepreneurial type of methods that people can take, there's definitely a lot of online, content creator, influencer through social media, retail arbitrage, selling, reselling, drop shipping, online stores and promoting your own stores, podcasts, whatever it may be, affiliate marketing, all those types of things. They are still common. It just kind of depends on your own strategies and abilities with basically the niche that you choose, building an audience, and if you're having a product or something, like it's usually gonna come down to, traffic, the traffic that you attract, how you attract that traffic, and if you're selling something, marketing towards that community of people or towards people that they might refer. That's very vague, I know, but I mean, a lot of research comes from that, to be able to kind of be successful with it. And I feel, I think I have to message my director. 1 second. Everybody's freaking out because our stuff doesn't work. 1 second. 1 second. So all right. I'm sorry. sorry. Our server is down, so we can't connect to our Outlook, and one of my supervisors couldn't get his weekly conference Teams links, because he can't get anything out of his Outlook. He said everything in his Outlook is deleted, which is pretty frightening, meaning that like anything scheduled in there is no longer there. So things are becoming a disaster at my job right now. But I mean, as you can see, I mean, I've come off of this recording a couple times to take some calls and things, but otherwise I'm pretty much done for the day. But okay, so I would say another thing I've seen entrepreneurial types of things happening. This is something that for me, I don't want to put people on blast or whatever, but for me it's like there's an honest way of doing things, so I don't want to assume that people who are doing this next method are doing something dishonest. I'm kind of like, okay, I think about things sometimes. I'm like, okay, when it comes to work with certain stuff, if you're not outside the rules of what your job expects you to do, like as far as like with the integrity of things, doing the actual work that you say you do, logging it properly, nothing fraudulent, and your productivity is accurate and up to par with what is expected from management, and all your goals are being met, the issue I have is, sometimes there are jobs where you can be doing all of that, right? And this isn't necessarily about quiet quitting, but like sometimes you can be doing everything and still realize, I don't need to spend 8 hours doing things when I'm basically done with my job. According to what the demands say, I'm done with my job at this certain time point, at this certain timestamp, mostly every day, but I'm still on the clock, right? Now, I don't feel bad recording while I'm on hold, because I'm literally on hold. Like, I could be watching a movie while I'm on hold. It doesn't matter. We bill for the time that we're on hold anyways. And so I don't feel like there's anything wrong with recording while I'm on hold. Or if I were to even have another job, I don't know what kind of job I could do, but like say if I was delivering, doing some kind of like pickup and drop off food delivery where somebody comes, the restaurant comes to my car when I'm in the parking lot, and then they give the food to my car, and then I drive from the restaurant to the customer's house, sit outside, and the customer comes to my car and picks the food up out of my hands. I feel like if I were on hold in those types of situations and just happened to be making money driving Uber Eats, it's kind of like, as long as you're taking the calls and doing what you need to do, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. So there are some jobs where I feel like you can kind of do this kind of multitasking type of thing where you're doing something on the side, but you wouldn't really probably be able to have like an hourly rate where you're like, okay, I'm going to get a job at a grocery store during these times when I'm usually on hold. You know what I mean? Because you're usually not going to be on hold for like multiple hours like that. Like you're going to have to still take the calls and stuff. So there are some things that you could do if you had a job like this one where you're kind of on hold a lot. But then the problem is, like, for me, like, I can't really be on my phone while I'm driving and then having customers calling me and then being like driving and doing all this other kind of stuff at the same time. Like, that's not really likely gonna gonna work to be doing all that at once. And so that's kind of how I see it, where it's like you can't really do like it's situation by situation. So I say all that to say, I've seen people doing some form of that, like different variations of that, where it's like, okay, say if you have a job that you finish in 4 hours, but you're on the clock for 8 hours, but you've already met the goals and the demands of what you need to do within that 4 hours. You've hit all the goals for the day. You've done everything you needed to do for your job. So why spend the other 4 hours of your shift still working for that pay when you could be doing something in addition to get additional pay while you're still on the clock? So for me, that feels a little different, because you're basically still getting paid while you're doing nothing. You're still getting paid while you're doing nothing. And so that is something that I feel like is tricky for people, as far as integrity is concerned, as far as, honesty and truthfulness. I think that is a little tricky kind of situation to be like, I'm working while I'm doing this other thing, and I'm kind of double dipping, getting paid while I finished my work demands, and then having 4 hours to do more other stuff on the side while I'm already getting paid in this job, but I'm not actually working for that extra 4-hour pay, as if it's part of my 8-hour shift, if you know what I mean. And then, on the side doing another job while you're on the clock for the first job. So that is a little iffy to me. Another version of that I've seen are people where there's not a lot of privacy and confidential kind of needs coming up, or private or confidential kind of sensitive information. Like I mentioned, I have healthcare information for our clients, and so I couldn't outsource my job. I couldn't hire someone else to do my job for me because it's protected health information. I can't be like, okay, I'm gonna hire somebody to call my clients for me while I'm over here doing this other thing. Now, I've heard of other people at different jobs, not the type of work I do, but like, say IT, for example, or something like that, where it might not be sensitive information that you can legally share it with other people, and whatever job you would be doing, outsourcing that job to someone else to do it, and then on the side doing another job. So there was this guy who was saying he gets like, I don't know how much he gets. I don't remember the pay rates, but let's say he was getting $60K at one job. He said he was finishing his job in 1 hour and then outsourcing the rest of the 7-hour shift to another person, while he was working a second job for those 7 hours, making another like $60K or so. And so he's basically getting paid for both jobs, while he's only really working 1 hour for one job, and then outsourcing 2 7-hour jobs, like 7 hours worth of one 8-hour shift, and then a whole 7 hours for another shift, another job, just outsourcing it all. So having 2 full-time jobs, but only really working 1 hour. And he was mentioning that people pay for that. Like companies, depending on what type of place you work for, companies might be okay with it. He says mostly the sensitive data and that kind of thing might be an issue, but I kind of see it like it is kind of, it's not really a gray area, but it's kind of like, it is kind of not fully honest. I don't think it's fully honest. But also, if you are meeting your marks and you are doing your job, it's kind of like, well, I'm working, I'm doing my job. Now, I wasn't talking to my friend about this stuff, but I was talking to them more about, like, just the entrepreneurial kind of lifestyle that millennials are kind of dipping into lately, and not really trying to be working for these corporations because you have an income cap. If somebody says you can make $18 an hour, like where I live, McDonald's pays $18 an hour starting, with flexible shifts. 18 an hour is not bad money. And especially if the shifts are flexible, I mean, a person can easily make like a couple $100 a day, just working, for McDonald's, and that's not bad money. Now, some jobs, you're definitely going to be so focused in on the job that you're doing that you can't be multitasking like that. And some jobs, you might just have a side hustle that's kind of based on what you already know, what you already do, or you're providing some content about it or something along those lines. I would always recommend, paying attention to honesty and integrity. You'll feel better about it yourself. The money part isn't always the most important thing to look at. I mean, easy for a person like me to say, who's able to kind of eat every day, and like at least I've got my basics handled, and I do understand people got to do what they got to do. So I'm not like judging people. I'm just saying, like, it can be risky, because say you're working for the same company for so long and then you screw something up really badly, that whole work history is like nothing. If you've been working for a company for like 15 years and you end up getting fired and can't get a recommendation and all this stuff, I'm really not sure about that. So I don't really know. I'm trying to think about there's a risk involved too. You don't just want to look at the dollar signs and be like, ooh, this is a good idea. But I do think it's very possible to use kind of the skills that you have to kind of go an entrepreneurial route. It's just kind of thinking outside of the box and, knowing how to do what you're going to do, and how you're going to schedule it and scale it up once you do start making money. And almost anything that you can kind of automate in some way, that's going to help too. Now, I mean, there's not really any kind of job really that exists where you're going to just be like online 1 hour every day only, tell a whole bunch of people to do this stuff, and then you just have money just rolling in, all day long without any kind of work on your end. When people say passive income, a lot of times that's what they're focused on. They're like, oh, somebody wants passive income. I just want to set something up that's just going to have money coming in. The easiest thing I think that has money coming in, that's limited effort probably on the part of the business owner, is something like those t-shirts sales, through like, what's that app called, Rage, or like, those free like t-shirt and kind of other types of stuff. I mean, it's not like, you definitely have to have some kind of brand or some kind of something behind you where people would find your stuff. But it's like, you could technically do something like that with like making t-shirts, selling t-shirts, just posting a link to the shirts, and then people would go on that site and buy it. And if there's any customer support needs, they would contact that company and not you. Because usually if you own an online store like Shopify or eBay or something like that, usually the customers are going to come back to you. So it may be passive, but at the same time, it might not be too passive if you have a lot of like customer complaints or returns and all that kind of stuff. You're going to be in and out of the post office, in and out of all these other spots. So, I don't know. I am not, I don't know, other than like real estate and stuff like that, like things can be relatively passive, but what they usually mean when they say passive income is that you're not trading hours for a pay rate. So if you're getting $20 an hour at your job, there's no way you're going to make, well, depending on the job, but let's just say for argument's sake, there's no way you're going to make more than $20 every hour, even if you work harder. Like you're still making the 20 an hour, and you make as much as you make every day, and that's the end of story, right? So if you're able to kind of get something in like an automated mode somewhat, that would look something more similar to how I was explaining how that one guy was like paying people on Upwork to kind of do what he was assigned to do for his job while he was taking another job. Now, like I mentioned, that's probably risky in most people's jobs, so that's probably not something you can just honestly do and have nobody complain at you if they find out. I mean, they might turn a blind eye, but some places are flexible and they really couldn't care less. And then other places, like if they find out, you would definitely get fired. So it's hard to know what the range would be, but I would say there's a lot of stuff you probably wouldn't want to do unless you are very aware of what the risks look like, what the consequences look like, because it's not a very traditional path, and it's just something that people are able to do with some jobs, but I couldn't recommend it. But to not work for an hourly wage, something like YouTube or I don't know, like this, like podcasting or something like that. Say, for example, if I spent, I'm off work Mondays because I'm studying. So say if I spent Monday, 4 hours of my Monday making 4 YouTube episodes, right? 1 hour each. And then say I spent the second 4 hours of my day off making, I don't know, say I had a product of some form that I was selling, and I was selling that product on 4 platforms. Let's just keep it easy, like eBay, Craigslist, OfferUp, and say I had a Shopify store open. So I'm selling on 4 platforms, posting that one item on all 4 platforms. Say it takes me an hour for each post. So that's an 8-hour day, right? And say each hour that I posted a video, I made $20 off of that, right? Each one. And then each item that I was selling is $20 in profit, let's say. And I made 1 sale on each of the 4 sites. So let's just say every hour evened out to $20 an hour. Let's just say, right? But if you have stores and you have YouTube or something like that, right? It doesn't stop after just that 1 hour, because you have the videos posted. You have 4 new videos posted. And if you already got $20, per hour for the first 4 hours while you were setting up your stores, your four, you know, you know, on the 4 different platforms, setting up your selling campaign for each of those 4 things. While you were doing that, you, let's say, got another 4 hours worth of $20 an hour from the CPMs on YouTube, right? So while you were setting up the store, making an extra $20 every 4 hours, $20 every hour for that 4 hours, you made an extra $20 every hour from a video that was already posted. And let's just say that this video every day, for some reason, between 9 to 5, all of your videos make $20 an hour because people are watching those same videos, and then every day your store is getting, all your different stores that you set up, all 4 of them are each getting one sale that's worth $20 in profit, pure profit, right? Once those are set up and you've put those 8 hours in, you're still making money off of those things. Now it's going to fluctuate and things change, but that's more so an example of passive income. Now that would be great, to have numbers like that where everything's just all nice and even and just like you get the same amount of results every day and nothing ever changes for years. Now that's not normal. With all these online type of things, algorithms change, they change the rules. If you're selling products, it may not be popular anymore. Apps go down and then you can no longer use that app that you were using to make money. Certain types of marketing are no longer allowed on certain types of platforms. Maybe you were just leaving links all over the place to all of your different stores, and now those links, you can't market through using links, and so now you have to use organic traffic to get people to come actually to the store online on their own without knowing the link, because you can't promote the link anymore, or whatever it may be. Like, stupid things change all the time in the online world, and so that is a risk. But also the passive income side of things isn't just like, I'm just gonna do this thing and it's just gonna make me a lot of money and I'm gonna sit on the couch and watch rugby reruns for like months on end to my heart's content and just have free time. And that's not really realistic. Usually people who have online stores or create content, they're usually creating, but it's not really an hourly rate, or it's something that you can scale up. So if you know how to make $20 an hour, you might put a few more ads in your video, and now instead of making $20 an hour, it makes $25 an hour. And then you have that skill that you know how to do that with all the videos. So now you have 4 videos that instead of making $20 an hour each, they're making $25 an hour each. I mean, I'm making this sound so simplistic, but it's a lot harder than it seems. Like, usually you have to know a lot about marketing and a lot about your actual ideas to be able to kind of have a niche where you can actually make passive income. And it needs to be a niche that needs to span holidays, it needs to span different groups of people. It needs to be something that is spanning cultures, spanning economic classes, sometimes depending what it is, spanning it just needs to have a wide range, but not so wide of a range that nobody's paying attention to you. It needs to be just that perfect amount of you are different and you do have competitors, but you're doing better than those competitors. And so trying to figure out how. But yeah, guys, that's kind of what I would explain in trying to talk about you know, what us millennials are facing these days. As far as, how our career choices are looking and methods that we're taking surrounding career related things. That's kind of, more so. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, is mostly, this new kind of era that I'm seeing. Like, I did go from seeing stuff about like passive income, that used to be like a really popular topic, and now it's more like I'm starting to see other types of content about, how people are kind of like shifting out of like the mainstream, school route, shifting out of the mainstream 9-to-5 route, and finding different ways to get themselves paid legally, with high integrity and, truthful work, being creative. Now, I like to mention things that might be even a little bit risky, just because I feel like, people aren't always going to take that risk, which I think is ideal, to not take a risk where you're going to regret, if you get caught. But I'm not trying to like promote illegal like work methods or anything. I'm just trying to put information out there, because sometimes when I hear something that seems a little shady, I'm usually able to find a way that it's like, okay, I could make this more, like I could definitely make this honest. I could make an honest version of this. And so, you could always switch to a job where you can do that. Switch to a job where you can outsource the work, where it's not going to be illegal. If you want to do something like that and it's not legal at your current job, you can get into work where you can do that, where it won't be an issue, and you're still, making, the money from that job, as well as collecting an additional paycheck from another job, because the first job doesn't care that you're outsourcing the work. So yeah, that's kind of how I see things. I'm not fully done with this topic. It's a topic of great interest to me, especially since I'm noticing it in my life and it's directly affecting me. I don't know that many people who are just doing one type of job route. And I was talking with my friend a bit too. We were kind of saying, like, is it a risk? We don't know, but we're saying, is it a risk to just learn one thing in school, have one type of career path, and only know how to do that, and not know how to do any other thing, to make additional income on the side a little bit here and there? Is it possible? Or is it risky? That seems risky to us. When we were talking amongst ourselves, we're like, that feels risky. But, I mentioned in the beginning, I have goals to be, a millionaire by age 50. But, I did have some setbacks towards that, but it's still very possible. It's still a very possible thing for me to do. I can see myself getting there. And that first goal that I'll need to reach, I should be able to reach it before this time next year. So by the end of 2023, I'll be about 1 out of 11 steps away. And it might take less than 11 steps, depending how much I make finishing out the rest of this year. So that's kind of all I have to say about that for now. And thanks for listening.